Hello, here we are at Camp Forest in Maine. I'm going to go over basic knife safety and knife carving. Okay, this is more a knife that I really like, a Swedish steel, carbon steel is what this one is. So that means that it's easier to sharpen and it gets really nice and sharp, but it also can get rusty. So we want to make sure there's no rust on our knife. A clean knife, what they say is a sharp knife is a safe knife, right? And a clean knife is a safe knife. So first of all, we want to make sure our knife is clean. Now when I go into the woods with my knife, a lot of times I'll bring a little file like this. It's real light, right? And I can take it, it's got a pointy end. I can take it and I can stick it into a log in the woods. And right, this is stuck into that a little crack in that log underneath there. And then I can sharpen it, right? A carbon steel knife is for people who like to maintain their knife and like a sharp knife and they know how to sharpen a knife. If you don't know how to sharpen a knife, you can just get a carbon steel knife, or if you don't want it to deal with rust, you can get a stainless steel knife if you don't want to deal with rust. This one's a carbon steel. I usually stick that in there. Sometimes here's another better spot right here. Let me show you. See this crack in the log? So I can really get it in there. And I can even sometimes I'll hit it with a stick and get it in there. See that? So that's how I make sure my knife's sharp and there's no rust on it. In order to check it, I don't check it with my skin. I check it with the back of my nail and see if it slides or if it sticks. If it sticks, then it's sharp. If it's sliding, then it isn't. Okay? Now I don't ever walk around with my knife out of its sheath. Okay? Put it in the sheath and then I walk over to here. And I find a spot and I tell people around me that I'm going to carve. Webster I'm going to carve, Cameron I'm going to carve, and I make my blood circle with it inside the sheath, right? This is, I want this much space for carving. So then I get my stick, got my stick ready, right? And pull my knife out of my sheath, put the sheath there, right? Now I want to be, sometimes I spread my legs like this so I make like my own little space. I want to be carving away from myself and towards the ground, right? So first thing with our basic knife safety test is to make a point on a stick, right? A lot of people say that's easy, but people haven't never used a knife before. Kids have never used a knife before. It's sometimes a little bit difficult, right? But it's this point is the most basic and thing that you use a lot. Okay. Then we want to make a notch. The notch is a little bit more complicated, right? And we don't want to. We want to keep some distance between our knife and our finger, right? With our notch, you do not want to ever cut on your leg. Don't do that, okay? So I go over here where the bench is, right? And to make my notch, I don't ever want to cut towards myself, right? Now, I'm going to go straight in, straight, right? And then I'm going to go away into that spot and then cut that off, right? Away from myself. This is how I make the notch. Okay. Now there's my notch, and you have to be able to hold your finger in it like that. See that? Now the most common way that kids will cut themselves is that they'll be carving, right? And it just keeps slipping down, so they want to get their finger a little bit closer to it to get a little bit more strength on there, right? You think I'll break the rules just a little bit, and then all of a sudden your finger's right up there next to the knife. It's one of the most common ways people get cut. Okay. Another common way is cutting towards yourself that way. Now I put this back in my sheath. This is our Osprey level basic knife safety test. Is they can make a point and a notch. And these are things that you use later on in all the bush skills that you'll do whether you're making benches, whether you're making crafts, anything that you're making, even when you're cutting a tree down, you'll be using this point and this notch. So here it is. Thanks so much for watching.